Okay, hello from my side. My name is Rauno. For the 10 years I was the director of the Estonian deposit system until July last year, and since then I act as an expert in different European countries. So let's talk about the deposit system and its essence. First, about different collection systems. There is deposit, there is containers, curbside, packages, bag collection systems, etc. I always hate the discussion about which is better. They all need it, that's for sure. The deposit system just deals with the most visible part of the littering, which is left by the beverage packages in the city and nature environment. In Estonia, we have the deposit system, we have 3 container systems, and we see how we can cooperate in different parts, technically and also from marketing point of view, etc. So it's more about collaboration rather than contradictions. If we talk about the deposit system pluses and minuses, it's clear that because of the monetary incentive, the return rates are as high as 80 to even up to 98%, depending on the system, depending on the materials. And the material extremely clean. It's not that we collect 50% and then we recycle maybe 20% of that. We actually, 100% of the material is totally recyclable because it's so clean. You drink it, you put it in your bag, next time you return it, and it doesn't go through the waste stream. That's why it's capable to be used for food processing, meaning bottle-to-bottle principle, for example, for a PT or even a can. And it also helps the development of reusable packages. For example, in Estonia, we have 15% of the whole volume is returnable glass bottles, and the deposit system really helped to maintain the system and also to develop the glass bottles recycling. We need environmental education anyway, that's clear, but it kicks in my opinion, after tens of decades. We have to deal with the kindergartens and schools, etc. But if we want to have good, quick results, because of the monetary incentive, we get them in 1 or even up to 2 years. As unfortunately, we all think we are green, we don't act green, but if we give the monetary incentive to the consumer, to the people, then we can get very quick, high return rates very quickly. And the system is transparent because every bottle put on the market the data is recorded, and also every bottle which is collected, the data is recorded. So sometimes the deposit system is not liked because it also helps the government to increase VAT and other taxes because it's so transparent related to the reporting side. If you talk about the minuses, it's clear there are fraud issues because when money is involved, people are very creative, they try to fraud the system, which means that you have to have a very good controlling system since day one. You have to control the producers, you have to control the retailer side, so you can tackle that with IT systems, etc. It's not rocket science. Stakeholder management. The key stakeholders as producers, as retailers, there are small producers, big producers, everybody has its own interest. So for the management of the deposit system, it's quite a complex challenge to make them all work for the country, make them all work for the environment. But it's doable. It just takes a bit of time. Difficult in the first year. I have a similar slide here. Why I show it is actually the first modern deposit system started already in 1984 in Sweden. So it's 35 years of a modern system. And the Swedes are always very proud saying that they had milk rounds, collection of milk already in the 19th century. So I say maybe in Turkey it was also the kind of like the predecessor of a deposit system in the 19th century or even earlier. At least in Estonia we had milk was brought to your home and glass bottles were taken back. Of course it was not a modern deposit, but still. So how it works. From the consumer point of view, it's very simple. You take your package. You go to your shop, you buy your bread, milk, bananas, also your water bottle, and next time you go to buy something else, you take your empty packages with you. So in that sense, it's very simple logic. The same shop, you can take it and you get a check, or you can take cash out as you wish. Basically, how it looks like, very simple. You might have, like on the left picture, we see one big retailer, a supermarket with 2 RVM collecting machines, or you can see a small countryside shop on the right picture, which has a collection machine of similar of a size of a refrigerator. Or if the shop is too small of an area, or there are many small shops that don't have space for collection, you could have such an outside solution that are seen here, which are usually very close to the shops, to the retailers. It's called outside kiosk, or kind of like a beverage collection point, which is connected to the shop anyway, because you get a check and you go with this check to the retailer to be refunded for the packages. So, who are the major stakeholders in the deposit system? From one side, it's the industry, the producers, the importers. Then it's clearly the retailers. And usually the industry and the retailers are the ones who create the central organization. And always also partners, recyclers, because when you have a deposit system, you have a high volume of very high quality material coming from like cans, PET, glass, and this promotes recycling. This basically helps to develop PET recycling industry. It helps to develop even maybe aluminum industry, and definitely glass, depending on the region. Taking the size of Turkey, of 80 million people, it's clear that it will promote a lot of local recycling and a lot of new jobs in that sense. Because I come from a small country of 1.3 million people, but we have a demand so high for this clean material that we could sell 5 times more. Unfortunately, we just don't have the material to give. So, if we talk about the Estonian system, it started in 2005. We work as a non-profit organization. It is controlled by the Ministry of Environment every year. The accreditation has been given by the ministry. And basically it's owned by the industry. 75% of the owners are associations behind the industry, the big producers. And 25% are the owners as the retailers, to be also, as they are a very important part of the collection infrastructure in the deposit system. So we work since May 2005. And from the producer sales side, we have today roughly 350 different contracts. Behind that, about 10,000 packages in the register from day one. But 3,500 packages are those which are every day put on the market and which every day we collect it from the market. And from the collection side, we have 850 retailer points where we collect with the help with the retailers, and about 670 reverse vending machines. In addition, as a volunteer basis, we do cooperation with the biggest hotels, restaurants, and catering companies, because we don't want the consumers to go to the retailers and make it, we don't want the, so to say, for example, a big restaurant to go to a, okay, wow, okay, so let's continue. For example, we don't want a big restaurant to go with its huge volumes to a regular retailer and make queues of a kilometer. So in that sense, it's also important to do cooperation with the biggest restaurants and hotels to just gather the packages and contributing to the high return rates. In the Estonian system, we have the next product categories in the system as soft drinks, water, beer, low alcoholic beverages, juice concentrates, juices, and nectars. And the packaging materials you can see here as PET, cans, aluminum and steel, both one-way glass and refillable glass. And the deposit value is 10 cents for all of these different types of packages. The golden rule for the deposit value is it has to be high enough to motivate consumers to return the packages. At the same time, it has to be low enough not to motivate too much fraud, which means it is a very tricky thing. It has to be always calculated, country-based, and really analyzed in a much deep way. Taking the Estonian living standard, this 10 cents for all, is something that I feel that we have this balance of between the motivation for consumers and little fraud. If you design a system, I always say 60–70% of the system is the same, but you have a lot of country specifics, never copy-paste. That's why the deposit system design is very important. Just a small example. When we started, we had 80% of manual collection, 20% of REW collection. And we said, you are green, but at the same time you drive around Estonia with a lot of trucks full of empty air. So what we did is that we gave an incentive to the retailers to invest into the compaction of the RVMs at the retail shop. And within 10 months, we basically changed the system so that Now we have already, well, the number of RVM collection is not so important, but 80% of the whole volume coming in is already compacted. And at one point we even made a calculation that it was at that time about 1,300 trucks less per year coming into our factory, which gives huge savings in logistics, in CO2, in finances, of course, also. So just these small key elements in a deposit system design that should be taken into account. If we talk about our numbers, these are just estimates for 2018, it's not closed yet. The sales of beverage packages under deposit was about 277 million units, and the return rate 240, meaning that returned in pieces 240 million. And you can see the return rates of PT 86, can around 96, and one-way glass of 90. And this is just one way. In Estonia, as said, 85% of the packages collected are one way, and 15% are refillables, which are in addition to that. And the refillable return rate is usually around 94, 95%. So taking our quite small country and population, as already said, from day one we have collected 3.7 billion packages, which for us is a super result. For you it would have been or will be a very good first half year or quarter. So, but in general it depends on the size of the country naturally. So some of the key elements of the functioning and efficient deposit system, to my mind. Number one, it has to be of non-profit principle, which is most efficient for the consumer, clearly. It has to work as a producer responsibility organization under the control of producers, because they are paying the bill, they want to be in control of the whole system. And clearly all stakeholders should be involved from day one. Producers, retailers, partners as recyclers, transport partners, etc. A lot of stakeholder management. And already what I touched upon is this correct initial setup, starting with the law, the handling centers, logistic schemes, etc. Take your time to really digest it and do it in the best way. Don't copy-paste, learn from the best and do your own best Turkish system. And it's clearly controlling, as controlling is the absolute cornerstone of a deposit system, which means that you have to have very sophisticated IT systems and controlling of retailers, producers, etc., to really guarantee the system functioning in a very transparent way. And naturally, constant awareness building towards the public, because it's, when we started in our marketing, we said, this is for the money. Bring the bottle back to get your money back, which is true, and this is very important in the beginning. But now later, of course, it is now also more about building the awareness of the environment in general. When we ask our consumers, they say that because of the deposit system, they also have started to think, and also some of them started to act more regards other sorting of packages. To really, it is kind of like a tool of awareness building. Of course, you get your money back, but then you start to think, why I do this? I do it for the money, but also for the environment and for the country. So this is also something that is needed as a constant awareness building from the central system part. That was quick, so questions later.